Welcome to the Outer Realm with Michelle DeRoche and Amelia Pisano. Airing live on the United Public Radio Network, 105.3 FM in New Orleans.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Thursday night segment of the Outer Realm. We are broadcasting live here on the United Public Radio Network, 105.3 FM from New Orleans. We are fully sponsored by the amazing people over at Folgers Coffee who have been with us since day one. So thank you, Folgers. Also, big thank you to our other sponsor, Dr. Snick, the Sonic Surgeon, aka Justin Snicker, who is responsible for that amazing intro and outro that you guys hear. His music is found anywhere that good music can be found. Tonight, we welcome back the return of David Weiss. He's going to be continuing where he left off with the flat earth perspective, shall we say. Try to reframe that. So love him or hate him, you don't have to agree with him. However, as per our motto, we don't always necessarily share the same, we don't have the same feelings, about a lot of what our guests talk about, but we always give them the respect and the courtesy of listening. And we are all students. And from that point on, we expect everybody to play nice in the schoolyard. We're going to leave that right there. So with that being said, I have basically fired off an invite that way he should go. And I see that the chat room is filling up. So hello, Bubbles in the house. There we go. We've got Wayne, Tamara, Zach. Love it. Love it. So should be interesting. We had I know you do play nice, Zach. It's just in generalization. But we had a really fun time with him the last time. And we're really looking forward to it again. He's just got really good energy. He's just full of energy. He's passionate about his cause and what he talks about. And I think that's great. I think that he really believes this and he really wants to put it out there. And we are happy to offer that platform for people to talk about what their perspective is on certain things. And again, as per our disclaimer, we don't necessarily, share the same opinions, but we do always show respect to our guests. They are taking the time out of their evening to spend with us all. And whether you agree or don't disagree, I think, again, the courtesy is, everybody deserves the courtesy. But I have to say, he had and still holds the record for probably the highest archive hit on SoundCloud. It went up really quick. So he's probably neck to neck with a couple of Joes and ours, but he really went up quick. And on YouTube, he does hold that record with us. He's got well between 2,000 and 3,000 listens. And that happened relatively quick. I put that on the Outer Realm YouTube just as an archive, as a backup. And within a week, it shot up to over 2,000. So there's definitely some interest out there. Yes, Tamara, everyone does have a right to their own view of the universe. And is that going to be one heck of a show tonight? It will. I think so as well. I think it's going to be a great show. I heard somebody make a comment today, just going through some research and you're checking out what other people's shows that our guest has done. And people are like, you know what? You can believe what you want. That's your perspective. It's your prerogative. But if you're in a position of authority, you shouldn't teach certain things to people. I'm going to talk to him about that tonight. But I don't know. I think, you know what? I absolutely agree. But people, again, have the right to listen and make their own judgment call. I think we've been living in, suppressed state of everything for quite a long time now. And over the last couple of years, it's been having to mind our P's and Q's, including right here, on YouTube and such. So we do, we are seeing a lot of censorship and that sort of thing. And I just don't think that that's right. I think if you're an adult, then you should be able to make up your own mind. If you're a child, then a little bit of a different situation. And the fact that you'd be listening to one of these shows, I would like to think that you'd be with a parent or somebody along those lines, just to sort of guide you through that. But as we wait for David to come in, I'm going to grab his bio. So David Weiss is a businessman who walked away from his own very successful company to pursue spreading the truth about our world. He is the host of the Flat Earth podcast, creator of the Flat Earth Sun, Moon, and Zodiac Clock app. He has an amazing ability to take anyone from ridiculing the idea of a flat Earth to the mind-blowing understanding that we don't live on a spinning, wobbling, rocketing water ball in infinite vacuum. I like that. He also shows you why the topic is the most important topic of these troubled times. And we are in troubled times without a doubt. So, with no further ado, here he is. Hey, how are you?
Hey, what's going on? Thanks for having me back.
Oh, we had a blast with you the last time. Yours would be great. Oh,
hey, I just want to start out by saying nobody should believe anything I say, right? I'm going to point towards a bunch of doors that you've never seen, probably haven't seen. And then it's up to you, listeners, to go investigate yourself and find out what's true. Belief is the enemy of knowing. Belief is easy. It's a lazy man's trick. You want to be rich, invent something that'll make people lazier and everyone will get it. Okay. People love being lazy. You believe, you have lots of beliefs, right? If I told you I lived in Connecticut, you could believe I live in Connecticut, you're done. But if you wanted to know I lived in Connecticut, you'd have to go do some research, go online, look on Facebook, find my friends. Oh, they're all in the same town. Look, there's this high school. Yeah, now you know. But belief is the enemy of knowing. And the thing is, people believe they live on a spinning ball because they were told by a guy in a lab coat, a teacher that memorized textbooks and got A's. Therefore, they become the teachers, right? Textbooks made by the controllers that never want us to challenge their authority. Textbooks that teach us to be good little slaves for the corporate system that they have here. They don't teach us to use our higher minds, connect with nature, connect with source. They tell us 90% of our brain is unused. We only use 10%. That's the goal of the education, indoctrination, heliocentric system. So thinking that I'm the crazy one, well, I might be different than the majority of the people, but that's changing very, very quickly. There are so many people.
Yeah, you did an interview with CNN, and basically they asked you about this, and you actually were the first one to say, "What do you think? I like this? You think I like people thinking that I have these, idiotic ideas, and I want to be put in this position?" And I thought that was really interesting that you would come forward, with that sort of a remark.
Since we talked, this is the people that are on the friend finder near me, which is in my app. There's within there was probably 50 people within how far am I? 50 kilometers, and now there's 375 or something like that. There's so many people across the plane right now. There's on the friend finder, there's almost 60,000 registered users. So thinking that I'm a crazy person, you can't even see the UK. The United States is covered with people that have woken up to something that every single one of these blue dots has in common is they all thought flat Earth was stupid. They thought it was a psyop to discredit truthers. They thought it was ridiculous. They thought it was the dumbest thing they've ever heard until they looked, until they actually looked. And when I say look, you can't Google flat Earth because the controllers will feed you nonsense. They'll feed you all of what we call anti-flat earthers, right? They have paid guys out there to ridicule you, to talk down to you, to talk in snarky attitudes, to call themselves a professor when they're really a failed musician, to call themselves science man when they're really straw man Dan. Okay, when they put and then Google pushes them out. You Google flat Earth, you don't find any good flat Earth information. So effort, time and effort is what it takes to learn the truth. And once you see it, so another thing that every one of those blue dots has is they will never go back to the ball, because the ball is the most ridiculous thing, and it's scientifically provable. Last thing, and then I've been talking a lot, I'll throw it back to you, is the favorite thing that Globers say is there's no proof of flat Earth. They've seen no proof of flat Earth. Well, that's because they haven't looked or they're blind. And there's tons of proof of the globe. Well, the opposite's true. I'm offering 3 Bitcoins for 1 globe proof. 3 Bitcoins, 1 globe proof. And so far, nobody has even come close to finding anything that proves we live on a spinning ball flying through a space vacuum. I don't even ask you to prove that it's spinning or that space is a vacuum. Just prove we live on a ball, and we don't.
But didn't somebody just come out and say that he accepted the challenge on Flat Earth with $100,000 reward,
For a
and
map?
he proved it, and basically was told, no, it wasn't a real map. It was digital, so we're not paying you. I'm just bringing it up. Sorry, because I wanted
No problem.
I wanted your
So
perspective on it. Yeah, he goes by Flat Out Hero. No, Boasted Flat Out Hero. It's
never heard of them.
impossible. Really? Yeah. There's some article. There was an article,
Yeah.
a couple of articles that came out. And I thought for sure you would have, because that's a substantial amount of money that's much like yourself. Somebody put out there and say, you can prove or disprove the flat Earth theory. I will pay out $100,000. And to this point, it has not been paid
I'm
out.
not asking you to disprove the flat Earth theory. I'm
Yeah.
asking you simpler, prove your
Yeah.
globe theory. Because
Yeah.
you know the best argument the Globers have is, well, the stars move in weird positions. You know, they appear to counter rotate the opposite direction in the south.
Right.
When the truth is, no matter where you are in the world, all the luminaries in the sky, sun, moon, and stars, rise in the east, set in the west. Okay. But because you're turned around, you know, you watch something spinning, turn around, it's now spinning counterclockwise versus clockwise. So, and also the optics of the sky are no way to prove the shape of the Earth. The other thing is, nobody has proven that any of the lights that we see in the sky, sun, moon, and stars, are even physical, or their size, or their distance. It's all made up pseudoscience. And people just believe it. Well, a guy in a book, you know, Copernicus wrote it, you know, a couple hundred years ago or whatever. Well, Copernicus made a telescope that we don't even have lenses that can do what his supposedly did back then. I don't think so. Right. Our consumer optics in our cameras, Nikon came out with the P900 and P1000 camera, completely blow the globe Earth to pieces. Right? On a globe, you should have a physical horizon at a certain distance. Our horizon isn't physical, it's optical. When you look at something in the distance, it's because the farthest you can see is where the sky meets the ground. Where the sky meets the ground. Are we a quick question? Are we broadcasting to a lot of audio listeners, or just mostly video listeners?
Oh yeah. I mean, millions of audio for sure.
Okay. Well,
yeah. I mean, we do have. It goes over 200 different podcast sites. Some are video, so we will be seeing the video, and the majority definitely audio, like millions live.
Well,
that doesn't even count archive.
So I'll explain it more in detail.
Okay.
When imagine yourself outside on a beautiful, clear day. You have some cumulus clouds, and they're all kind of sitting spaced out, and they look like they're sitting on a flat deck. It's because they are on a deck above you. They're 5,000, 10,000 feet above you, whatever it is. But if you look, like, let's say you're on the water and you look 20, 30 miles into the distance, the clouds that are 5,000 or 10,000 feet above you look like they're touching the water. And that's because of perspective. Everything kind of just merges into the horizon. So when we look at that distance where the sky meets the water, that's the limit of our vision. But if we could zoom in with a zoom lens, we can open that up, and then we can see farther. Right. And so things don't disappear over the horizon. If you have an empty horizon, right, the horizon's tight together, and you zoom in, as you zoom in, making it bigger, all of a sudden you'll start zooming in, and you'll see that there's actually boats there that appeared to disappear over the horizon. And then you take your camera and you zoom out, and these boats will appear to disappear from the bottom up. And that's just because of the little waves in the water in the foreground become bigger than the boat, and they block the boat until the point where the boat's too small, your eye can't see it. And your programming from Bill Nye, the Lying Guy with the bow tie, tells you that it went over a curve. And that's
or
not true.
curvature, right?
Well,
Like that's what they teach you. It's curvature.
They teach you it's curvature, but if something goes over the curvature, it disappears behind a physical horizon, and zooming in on it doesn't bring it back. So if we lived on a ball, which is impossible, things would disappear across a physical horizon, but we don't, because we could zoom in and open that horizon up, and then we could see farther and we could see things. Now with our infrared optics, we can zoom in and see things that should be many tens of miles below the curvature, but we can see them. They're still there. So how is that explainable on a ball?
Well, how about let's talk a little bit about a lunar eclipse.
Sure.
I'd explain that one. Remember, I'm approaching this from, I'm the student tonight. Amelia's in the chat room. Yeah. So if I pop up something, she's just recovering from an illness. So if I bring up her comments and questions on the screen, feel free to comment on comments, or
no
let you
problem.
know when it's a question. Right. So the lunar eclipse.
Yeah. So the lunar eclipse, the one we had the other night, it's weird. They tell us that the sunlight's going through our atmosphere. That's why the moon turns red. But that would only be at the beginning of the eclipse, because when the eclipse is full, the whole Earth is blocking the light. But that's when the moon turns red. And then there's other places on Earth where the moon doesn't turn red. Okay. So first thing is, we don't even know what the moon is. Globe Earth, flat Earth, doesn't matter. Nobody even knows what the moon is. They tell us it's 238,000 miles away. They tell us that big crater at the bottom that looks like spider web coming out of it is 40 miles wide. Well, if you actually do the math, 240,000 miles, you can't see something that's 40 miles wide with your naked eye, but we can. So they're lying about the sizes. They're lying about the distances. Watch every month, the moon is in the day sky for about a week. Look at the moon on a blue sky day. The blue sky is behind the moon. The blue sky is behind the moon. The moon's supposed to be 250,000 miles away. Okay. When we look at the lunar eclipse, it makes absolutely no sense, because there's a sharp edge to what they call the shadow of Earth. Well, I challenge you, take a basketball, go outside on a wall if the sun's low in the sky, or on the ground, and try to move the basketball 10, 20 feet away from the surface. There is no more shadow. It spreads out and it fades out. Right? You can't have an Earth 240,000 miles away from a moon and create a sharp shadow on it like that. It doesn't work like that. And when we do experiments with, with different things, we can kind of recreate what's happening. There's 100 different things that can be happening. And again, we don't know. We're not claiming to know, but we're claiming to know that a lunar eclipse is impossible on a flat Earth. And the other thing is another thing it's called there's called a Seleninian eclipse. Have you heard of that?
Solar, same or
no. A Seleninian eclipse is a lunar eclipse. Now, what is a lunar eclipse? A lunar eclipse is when you're on the Earth, and from your point of view, you're on the top of the Earth, and you have your sun setting on one side, your moon rising on the other side, or it's rising or setting, whatever. You have the moon and the sun, and they're coming into alignment. The eclipse happens when all three bodies are in alignment, right? So we get that shadow onto the moon. You with me? Makes sense?
Yes, absolutely.
But a Seleninian eclipse, there's more than 50 documented ones, where the observer can see the sun above the horizon on his right and the moon above his horizon on the left, and the eclipse starts before one of them goes below his line of view. Well, that doesn't work because the Earth isn't in between them yet. To make it worse, so the shadows come in from all different angles. And last year, the shadow came in from the top. Well, if the Earth was rising, coming in between, the shadow should come in on the bottom, but it came in on the top. This absolutely proves that it's not the Earth causing the shadow, the darkening of the moon. The moon does not the moon itself does not have the characteristics of a ball being lit by a single source object, the sun, right? You get a ball, you cast a light on it, that ball is going to have a hot spot, and then it's going to fade out. But if we look at the moon on any full moon night, it's lit perfectly, edge to edge. It's casting light on Earth. How does a dusty, dirty ball reflect sunlight back to Earth so bright that we could read by it, that it casts shadows on the ground? How does a dusty, dirty ball do that? And then this is where people's minds melt down. The inverse square law of light. Oh my God, they never taught me that in science, and I'm never going to be able to learn it now. Absolutely, you can. It's the simplest thing. As light expands off of a light source, it's spreading out. It has to fill bigger and bigger areas. Therefore, it's thinning. It's getting less and less. It's getting weaker and weaker. Okay. Every time you double the distance to a light, it's 1/4 of the brightness. Or every time you half the distance to a light, it's 4 times brighter. Okay. And you can test this out. This is real science. Well, if the moon is reflecting light back to Earth, the inverse square law says that the moon from 100 miles away would have to, if you were 100 miles from the moon, its light would have to be 64 times brighter than we see the sun from Earth. Well, that ruins the moon landings because that's not the case. I don't know if you can have something 64 times brighter than the sun. How bright is bright? What's the ultimate brightness? All of this stuff doesn't work. And then when you look at the distances that they tell us the sun is how far away? You don't know, right? No, I didn't know either. 93 million miles.
Off the top of my head.
Well, but here's the thing. The people that
get my science guy on.
The people that say flat Earth is stupid, they don't know their own model. They're defending a model that they were told as a kid with zero proof, and they're still defending it. Okay. They also don't know what the flat Earth is, and they have a false idea that it's a disc floating in space, that it was a disc with a spotlight, and the spotlight goes under. They have all crazy ideas. None of that's what we think. None of that's what we experience.
I think you have passionate people from both sides of the spectrum.
Well, agreed.
Yeah. Sorry, Allison is just wondering where you're from.
Connecticut.
Connecticut. There we go, Allison.
Do you believe it or do you know it?
There we go. Adrian says, how do you explain seasonal changes with the sun being indirect in the winter but closer, and more direct but further away in the summer? I'll leave that question up for you.
Okay. Well, it also depends on what summer and winter we're talking about. So for those of you listening, I'll try to describe it the best I can. So when we look at the Earth, the way let's talk about, I'll get to seasons in a second. But first we have to understand what the flat Earth is. So the flat Earth is not a disc floating in space,
right?
Which they want you to think. The flat Earth is more like a pond, right? A pond. What is a pond? A pond is a body of water surrounded by land that's higher than the water. It's the container of the water. The pond is the shoreline. The shoreline of the pond is just higher than the water. Well, Antarctica, they tell us, is a continent at the bottom of the ball. They also tell us a little bit, which is a lie. They also tell us some truth that it's the highest continent on Earth. It's plateau. It's, ground level is higher than all of the other continents. That's interesting, right? But if we look at how the Earth really is, Antarctica is the shoreline of the world pond. Put all the oceans together, put all the continents and islands floating all out in the middle of the ocean. The shoreline of our world, not the bottom, the shoreline at the same level as sea level is Antarctica. It's the highest land on Earth. It contains all of our water. It contains our world. That's it. Imagine if we're in Kansas and there's a lake. Let's say the lake is, 25 miles in circumference. And there's islands in the lake, and you're on a boat sailing around. Beautiful. And in the center of the lake, which is big, 25 miles. That's pretty huge. Is a tall mountain, and it's a big, gigantic magnetic mountain. It's a big magnet, biggest magnet you've ever seen. Okay. And so now you have a compass on your boat. That needle's always going to point towards the center of the lake. Now, if you try to dead reckon 90 degrees, well, you're going to sail along, and you got to keep turning to the left to maintain 90 degrees. So wherever you started from, you're going to draw a equidistant circle around that magnetic mountain, and you're going to come back right to where you went, and you were going 90 degrees east the whole time. You can do the same thing west, all the way around and come back. Now, which direction is south? If north is at the center, South is every direction away from the center. So we get in our boat, we put our backs to the mountain, doesn't matter which way we're facing, and we start sailing away. Well, we're 12 and a half miles from the shoreline. We get to the shoreline. We don't fall off the flat earth. We step up onto Kansas. Okay, interesting. So now we start walking, and we're walking, and we're walking, and we're hiking, and we're hiking, and we're 10, 20 miles away. Can't even see the lake anymore. Not even sure where we are. We're exploring this land. Let's say we're going for days. We're going 100 miles. That lake is, the whole world is behind us, right? That's our whole world. And all of a sudden, we come to another lake. Hey, there's another lake here with islands in it. And there's maybe a magnetic island in the middle of that one. And if we had another boat and a compass, we could circumnavigate that flat pond. Okay. So that is just one possibility of what's going on beyond the shoreline that we call Antarctica, right? What if we lived in a pond and then there was other ponds all across the earth plane, and these ponds had continents and people? They would lived on the extra land, people that lived on the extra land outside of our pond. Well, we might consider them an extra land person, an extraterrestrial, an extraterrestrial from outer space, from the outer space where we live. Okay. So if you want to talk about extraterrestrials, they make perfect sense here on a flat world, an extended plane. Right? But we're not allowed to go there. We're not even allowed to explore. We're not allowed to figure out if there's anything out there. There might be nothing. This might be the only pond that there is. Maybe there's some rings around our pond with other ponds. Okay. Maybe the world is set up like that. Maybe the world is set up with another ring around us. Am I blowing you away a little bit?
Always.
So for those of you looking, here we are in this pond, and then there's a ring around us, Antarctica, and then outside of that are more oceans and more continents across the Earth plane. Now, again,
it's sort of
we're
like the
not
Atlantis
allowed.
theory,
Well,
Atlantis,
Atlantis could just be in our southern oceans. Atlantis could be. Because when you wrap a flat map around a sphere, you lose huge swaths of the outer oceans, which are the southern oceans, the inner north and the outer south. Now let's get to the seasons. Seasons make zero sense seasons make no sense on a globe, right? So we're told that during our winter, the north is tilted towards the sun, so the sunlight's come in and it's more direct, right? But in our winter, we're tilted away, so that same beam of sunlight has to spread over a bigger area. Well, that's cool. That makes some sense. The problem with that is, and this is where people, they weren't taught to think, this is a very simple exercise. Here in Connecticut, we have frozen winters and hot summers, okay? In the summer, in the heliocentric model, the sun is 3.5 million miles farther away. Now, the Globers will go, that doesn't matter. 93 million minus 3.5 million is only like 4%. Okay, it's 4% farther away during our summer. However, I can go out down to the beach, and when the sun appears on the horizon, I could feel the heat pounding on my face, and within an hour, I can get a sunburn. I can get sunburn. Okay, I can absorb vitamin D. That's with a sun that is, now think about that. The sun is down low. We're tilted 89 degrees. The farthest tilt, the sun is literally skimming across, spreading out the widest area possible, way worse than the small tilt of the earth, supposed tilt of the earth. I can get a tan. Okay, no problem. But during the winter, when the sun is closer, doesn't matter, of course. At noon, when the sun is much more direct, coming in from a high angle, much tighter, I can look at the sun, can't feel the heat. I can stay there all day and not get a tan. Okay? It makes zero sense. So how do seasons work on a flat earth? Okay? So we have our pond in Kansas. We have our center, which is our North Pole. And then we have 3 consecutive rings. So first one is the Tropic of Cancer. And then we'll jump all the way out to the outer one is the Tropic of Capricorn. And halfway in between those is what we call the equator. Okay. And if you follow the equator using your magnetic compass that points towards the center of our pond, and we dead reckon east or west, we're going to go in a circle equidistant around the center, and we're going to come right back to where we went to, and it's about 24,000 miles. Well, that's what they tell us the circumference of the sphere, the impossible sphere floating in space is. Okay. So how do seasons work? Well, right now we're almost in June, and in June, the sun migrates all the way into the Tropic of Cancer, and it makes this tighter circle around the Tropic of Cancer. Well, the Tropic of Cancer is as close as the sun gets to me in Connecticut. Well, June is the height of our summer. The sun is close, therefore it's high in the sky. If you went out in the street that had a whole row of streetlights and you were standing directly under one, pretend that one's your summer sun. And then pretend the one a couple blocks down, that's your winter sun. Well, it's the same height, but it looks much lower in the sky. And if it kept going, it's going to become at your eye level, and then you can't even see a mile down the street because those are out of your view, just like the sun goes out of your view every day, right? So we're having our summer when the sun is over the Tropic of Cancer. It goes right over Miami. That's why it's so hot in Miami. Right over Mexico. That's why it's so hot in Mexico. It's winter in Australia. But 6 months later, the sun migrates out to the Tropic of Capricorn, and Australia is in their summer, and we're in our winter here in the north because the sun is far away. It's very simple. It only works on a flat earth. In the Flat Earth Sun, Moon, and Zodiac Clock app by Blue Water Bay, you can find it at flatearthdave.com. There's a frequently asked questions button, and don't believe anything I say, and don't just believe YouTube videos. However, I'm going to tell you something that will lead you to a YouTube video that somebody made for you, did all the work for you lazy globers, and then you can see it and you can go verify it yourself. But in there, we have What About Seasons. And if you click the What About Seasons, up comes a playlist of videos that YouTube won't let you find. You can search these by name and they won't show up. You're going to get other propaganda videos. Why are they hiding it? Why does every video that mentions flat earth have a Wikipedia thing underneath it that says flat earth is an ancient, scientifically proven wrong, belief? Show me the science. Flat earthers love science. We hate pseudoscience. Heliocentrism is pseudoscience.
Adrian, who asked you the question, says the sun is closer in the winter, but indirect.
Well, they tell us it's closer in the winter, but it's lower in the sky because we're tilted away. That works, but it doesn't make any sense because at noon in the winter, December 21st, here in Connecticut, the sun is about 55 degrees up in the sky. That's a pretty direct angle versus sunrise in June, where it's 89 degrees tilted over. It doesn't get any farther. And the heat is different, right? So that's more indirect, right? If you believe in the tilt model, it doesn't matter if it's tilted, axial tilt or spin tilt. It's the same thing. It's the angle to the sun, right? In the winter, the sun is more direct from that angle, but as we spin, it becomes less direct. You spin into the sun and then you spin away from the sun. So the sun is direct, indirect throughout the day, every day. So it makes absolutely no sense. And again, watch the videos, then you'll understand. Heliocentrism makes no sense. And if you look at the heat maps of the world, if the earth is tilted, how come it's hot between the tropics? The tropics are tilted away from the sun. The heat map should not just be in between the tropics. If the ball is tilted and spinning, the heat map's wrong. It only makes sense on a flat earth.
All right, next question. Zach has two. He's asking on behalf of a coworker of his. First question: if Earth is moving faster than 100 kilometers per hour in space and spinning at 1,000 miles per hour at the equator, how does NASA capture pictures of our planet? I'll leave it up for you so you can see it.
So the first question, the first thing is, if you watch, I used to watch a lot of Nova and all this stuff, and they were talking about the deep field pictures, right? So that they focused the big telescope here on Earth out in a little tiny spot in space and did a time lapse, and now they found hundreds of other galaxies, right? And each galaxy has 100 billion stars in it, just numbers that are absolutely ridiculous, numbers that our brains can't comprehend. And they talk about how this telescope is on a cement pad that's like 10 feet thick. And it has to be 10 feet thick so there's no vibrations. And the and then remember, the Earth is spinning at 1,000 miles an hour, and this thing tracks that spot in the sky with the Earth spinning 1,000 miles an hour, and somehow it's able to stay perfectly on a spot deep in the distance. Now think about this. Have you ever used a laser and tried to point it at something just a few miles away? The tiniest little movement moves that laser like a mile. Okay, we were doing some long distance laser testing across a frozen lake. And we needed a machine that did tiny micro adjustments because you couldn't adjust it by hand because you move that a tiny bit and the dot on the far end of the lake moves a half a mile. And then the people that are trying to photograph it can't. So you're talking about greater distances, right? So the thing that they said in this documentary that the operator of the telescope has to wear socks, can't even wear shoes. When he walks around, he has to tiptoe around because it could ruin the whole exposure that takes hours. Well, the Earth is spinning 1,000 miles an hour. Are they forgetting that it's orbiting the sun at 66,000 miles an hour and chasing the sun at 500,000 miles per hour? Are they forgetting about that? And then you have to make it worse. You got the Hubble telescope, which is mimicking all of those motions on Earth, and it's moving 17,500 miles an hour just to keep up with the Earth. Okay. Mm-hmm. This is all pseudoscience nonsense. I mean, when you look at the Hubble telescope, it's literally a tin can in space. It's really a joke. And 20 years, they took a picture of it just recently. It's the same picture that they showed us when they put it up, right? And if you look at it, it looks like tinfoil wrapped around a can of beans and a little wheels from a balsa wood airplane. It's nothing. This is not real. And people just believe it. And it's also in the thermosphere, which is like 3,000 degrees. Can you tell me an alloy that doesn't melt at 3,000 degrees?
Okay, next question. Amelia, I will come to your question in a moment. This is part 2 of Zach's question. Why does the media say that a meteor is heading in our direction if we are moving at 100,000 miles per hour through space? How do they know which direction we're headed in? Is there a compassion for space that they don't tell us about, which will lead right into Amelia's question after this?
Yeah, so here's the whole thing. The media is completely 100% controlled by the elite, if I should call them that, the powers that should not be. And it's all just mind control. They steer our minds with the news, north, east, west, south. And they feed us with fear, FEAR, false evidence appearing real. When they every time there's a new asteroid every day. Every Christmas there's an asteroid that looks like an elf. And then on Halloween, there's one that looks like a jack-o'-lantern. Every year, they do it every year. Oh, there's one that just missed us. It looks like a jack-o'-lantern too. And they have a heart-shaped one on Valentine's Day. And they make up all of this stuff all the time. There are no meteors. Well, what about the impacts, the big craters, right? Well, if meteors came into Earth, and by the way, every time they happen to film one from a dashboard cam in northern Russia, they're always coming in at very shallow angles. And if something comes at a shallow angle, it doesn't make a circle. It makes a long, dredged out trench. But all of the meteor craters, the one in Arizona, they're perfect circles. What are they? They're methane bubbles. Our Earth bubbles up sometimes from all different types of things. There's plasma events that happen, but these are bubbles and they're still happening. Just look up, actually on the app in the frequently asked question, there is a asteroids and meteors section. If you just go into the frequently asked questions, slow down, meteors and asteroids, and up comes a bunch of videos that you won't find. These are old geysers, old methane craters, and they're still happening in Siberia, all over the place. There's new ones popping up all the time.
Okay, next question then. This Amelia's co-hosting from the chat room. She goes, someone sent me a question. Is the government fooling the world and why?
So the government is, it depends on, which part of the government. There's
Yeah.
stoogers,
Tread
and there's people that
cautiously.
are, yeah, there's people that know that know everything, but it's all about control. Here's the thing. You know the movie The Matrix, right? The
Yes,
original Matrix. So
yes, and I have a
so
question about that came in for you also.
yeah,
So I'll let you
so at the
answer this
beginning of the
first.
Matrix, you got Neo, and he is still plugged into the Matrix. Something's wrong with the world. He's depressed. He can't figure it out. His soul is trying to tell him something, but his mind can't hear it yet because he's still plugged in to the programming. He believes the world is something that it's not. And then look at Neo at the end of the movie when he unplugs from the Matrix, which is the heliocentric system, right? He unplugs. He takes back his power. So this is the whole thing. They want us to believe that we are corkscrewing through infinite space, that we are insignificant speck flying through a distant godless or godless universe, a godless or distant god universe. That an asteroid could take us out. Boom, asteroids. Asteroids took the dinosaurs out. Guess what? Dinosaurs never existed. Okay, we can get into that if you want. So it's all a story. It's all a story that to separate us from the creator. They don't want us to know that we're at the center of creation. They don't want us to know that our thoughts create our reality. They want us to believe that other people can control us. Well, the only control people have over you is in your imagination. Just imagine this. Every person woke up tomorrow and goes, Dave's right. I'm not listening to the government anymore, right? Well,
Damn.
every government in the world crumbles instantly, and we don't even know who they are because we don't care, right? Because they're nothing. They're absolutely nothing.
I have to bicker a bit about the dinosaurs, only because I mean there's tons of evidence and bones and teeth where DNA is being
So
extracted.
hold on. Let's talk about that.
Okay.
We'll get into that for a second. So
Okay.
there's not tons of bones. There's a bone here and there. They'll find a whale bone at the top of a mountain, and they'll say, "Oh, that was a
There's a
stegosaurus,"
lot of
right?
bones. There's museums full of bones.
No, they're not. They're actually made from ground up chicken bones in China. They're all put into molds, and the museum will tell you, they'll admit those aren't the real bones. The real bones are too radioactive and too precious to put out for the public to see. So these are just replicas of what they have. No dinosaur head has ever been found. And here's the bottom line. If you look at all the megalithic buildings and history, back to the pyramids and on, no one ever mentioned finding a dinosaur, ever, not once. In the 1800s, 1850 something, give or take, some royal guy in England wrote a paper theorizing that dinosaurs existed. Theorizing. First one ever to come up with it. He wrote a paper, published it, and a year later, to the day, he and his team found the first dinosaur. Okay? Enough with the garbage, right? No dinosaur head has ever been found. No dinosaur skull. We're supposedly running off of fossil fuels. Dinosaur juice is going into our cars. This is nonsense. This is absolute and complete mockery of the human mind. They want you so dumbed down and so indoctrinated into their system. Use the 10% of your brain that makes you a good accountant, makes you a good manager, makes you a good marketer, makes you a good finance person working in their beast system, makes you working in their corporate system. They don't want you being an entrepreneur. They don't want you working together and raising children and educating them to the real ways of the world. They want you in their corporate slave system. And the way they do that is the heliocentric matrix. If you're trapped in a prison and you say, hey, I want to be an explorer, and the teacher pulls down the map and goes, Truman, there's nothing else to discover. It's all been discovered. Well, you've just shut off 90% of your brain. You've shut off 90% of your imagination. And if you do that, you stop manifesting. You're stuck in a cave, if you will.
Okay, so here's another question just rolling in here. Why explain why the Coriolis effect changes direction at the equator?
Yeah. So the Coriolis effect is if you look it up, it's a assumed effect. It doesn't. You're watching a video that made by a bunch of scammers at the equator. They draw a line and say this is the equator, and then they get a tank of water and they pour some water in it. And they throw some leaves in there, and you can see it circles one way. Watch the video again. They pour the water in to the left of the drain, and everything goes clockwise around the drain. And then the other one, they pour it into the right of the drain, and everything goes counterclockwise. It's all how the water goes in the basin. The idea that toilets and sinks go backwards in Australia, that's not true. I have sinks that go opposite directions in my own home, and I don't live on the equator. The Coriolis effect is a made-up effect. Now, when you push a paddle through water, or push a fan, a piece of a cardboard or whatever through the air, it's creating opposite rotating vortices. That's a real effect. That's not the spinning of the Earth Coriolis effect. Well, on the flat Earth, the sun and the moon travel in between the tropics, and when it goes around, spinning around, they leave an electromagnetic wake. And that wake will spin things counterclockwise in the south and clockwise in the north. And sometimes storms, though, when a storm is crossing the tropics, if the sun and the moon are on the other side, sometimes it'll cross and spin in the wrong direction. It happens every year. There's storms that spin in the opposite direction. If that happens once, the Coriolis effect is nonsense. Okay. It happens all the time, but they barely report on it. They don't want to mention it. They don't want you to know. They don't want you to think. So the whole idea that things spin in opposite directions is ridiculous. And the idea that snipers, because there's one video of a sniper saying, well, he adjusts for Coriolis. It's actually the dumbest thing ever, because everywhere you are, every latitude, the calculation for Coriolis would be different. And then every angle of degree off of east or west would be a completely different calculation. There's no computer that could figure it out, let alone a guy with a book trying to shoot somebody. Like a sniper's got someone pegged at 2 miles away. What's he going to do? Get him in the sight and then move the gun to the left and then hope the bullet arcs around because of Coriolis? It's nonsense.
Next question.
It's not sensical.
Okay. Next question. If I get up high enough with a telescope that can see deep space objects, I should be able to see Eiffel Tower or China. Right?
Well, that's what people want to believe. So if you're in a pool with crystal clear water and the pool's 100 yards long and you go underwater, you can't see the wall on the other side. If you're looking out a window, perfectly clean window, you can barely see the glass. You can't even see the glass. You might walk through it and cut yourself. But then you put 10 panes of glass together, and now it's a little weird. And then you put 100 panes together, now you can't even see through it. Okay? Well, glass, water, air are the same things. They're just at different densities. So when you're looking across the Earth, across the thickest part of the atmosphere, it gets denser and denser and denser. Now, there's a spot in Aluja, France, in this church parking lot where you can look out over the ocean, and Mount Canigou is 175 miles away. Well, the Earth must be curved because we can't see it even on the clearest of day. Okay.
Right.
Well, you don't see me. You don't see anything. You see the light that's bouncing off of it. Well, the light that's bouncing off of Mount Canigou isn't strong enough to push through 175 miles of atmosphere. It gets weaker and weaker and weaker, and it doesn't make it. Okay. However, twice a year, with the sun migrating in between the two tropics, it lines up with the viewing spot and the mountain. And when the sun lines up between you and the mountain, all of a sudden, as it goes into the distance, it starts backlighting the mountain because the sun's light is bright enough to push through 175 miles. And when it backlights it, you can see the mountain, and the very top of the mountain should be over a half a mile below the curve if the Earth was a ball, but it's not. We can see too far. And then when we get infrared that cuts through the glare more, we can see things that should be dozens of miles below the curve. This is not a mirage. This is Mount Canigou in its entirety. And it's the top of the mountain should be over a half a mile below. So that's only 175 miles. You think you could see the Eiffel Tower? Are you kidding me? Its angular size would be 1,000,000 times the magnitude too small for your eye to resolve if the light could get to your eye. Okay? You can't zoom a camera through opaqueness. The atmosphere becomes opaque, and then that's the end. That's the end of it. I mean, that's what you can't zoom any farther through opaqueness.
Okay, so that answers that. So let's get back into the Matrix theory. Essentially, what you're saying, this could almost be like the Truman Show and the Matrix all in one.
Yes,
Because let's
very
face
close.
it, poor
Well, so
Truman really got
well,
worked over,
so
right?
think about this. Think about this. So you have a pet, a dog, a cat,
Right, right.
whatever, a lion, whatever, and you put them in a small yard with a fence. They're just going to want to find a way out of that fence, you know.
Mm,
Um, and then so now you take them and let's do it with a wild animal. You have I don't know, a lion, if you will, and you
mm,
put them in a park that's 500 miles around and then it has a big fence. Well, that lion's going to be pretty damn happy. One day he's going to come across the fence and go, huh, a fence. Then he's going to turn around and go right back into the park. He's going to be good. But you put a human in there in the center of that park, and one day he roams 250 miles from the center, goes,
mm,
huh, a fence. I'm going on the other side of that, and I don't care what you say. I'm going, because we want to see where our curiosity wants us to explore. That's our
mm,
nature.
right.
Okay. So Truman, the story was, his mother couldn't have him. The corporation bought him and they built a set. And then everyone's an actor. Everyone's an
Right.
actor except Truman. Right. Well, if you started making that set bigger and bigger and bigger, you no longer lead actors anymore. If you made it 5,000 miles wide, you could just put people in it and nobody would know. And then you say, okay, just don't let them find the outside wall. And so how do you
Mm,
do that? Well, look at the Earth. So you can't go to Antarctica. Antarctica is off limits, right? And what do you
mhm,
mean? Lots of people go to Antarctica. You can take you can pay for a very expensive trip to the edge of Antarctica, and they'll show you some penguins, some ice. They take you to this little peninsula off the tip of Santiago, right? It's bigger than some countries, but they don't take you to all of the rest of Antarctica. They don't take you to the outer lands, okay?
mhm.
The outer lands away from the center, okay? So if we try to go here, I don't even believe that the United States, that this round of civilization, the 1900s civilization, even started figuring out what Antarctica was until the 1940s and 50s, okay? And when they did, they made it off limits. But if you were the creator, whoever, and you say, okay, I want people here, I want them not to know, I want them to have to figure everything else out. You make Antarctica, it gets colder and colder and darker, and there's no food and there's no animals and there's no nothing. So you make it super hard to get there to maybe where the dome terminates, if there is a dome, right?
Okay.
And then you say, okay,
Yeah.
well, going up, we're going to make it the air thinner and thinner and harder and harder and colder and hotter. It just make it so difficult to go up. So we can't go up. And then if we tried to drill down, which we did in Russia, the deepest hole we can only get to 7.5 miles because it got too hot and too hard. Well, now we're kind of trapped with walls that we can't really see. We can't go to Antarctica because it's just too cold. And we're told that it's the bottom of a ball. So why bother? Because if we made it, we just come out the other side and we can already get to the other side without going through that cold and dark. So we're here in this prison for our mind. Okay. And this prison is a new thing. It's not 2,000 years old. Aristophanes, the back in ancient Greece, nonsense. That he supposedly figured out the shape of the earth with sticks and shadows. Not true. This whole globe thing, all of our history, all of the leaders from the past are they're made up. They're fictional, right? Fictitious. So this is a new thing. They were teaching flat earth here in the 1900s into the mid 1900s, right? And then it all changed. And they said everything's a globe. And there's all this history that shows us it's a globe. It's not true. It's not true at all. It's all
Mhm.
every culture has known that the earth is a flat plane, right?
Okay.
Every culture before NASA, every religion before NASA's a religion, talked about a flat immovable plane. The Bible's a
A
flat Earth
lot of
book.
the
The Quran's
ancients
a flat Earth
believed
book.
that until the Greeks.
Well, so the story is about the Greeks supposedly figured it out 2,000 years ago. So I thought I talked about this, but I'll show you. Aristophanes supposedly figured out with sticks and shadows. So think about this. If we're back in Aristophanes times, they thought that we were geocentric and the sun went around us. Okay. Well, that means the sun should be pretty close to us, right? Versus what we call an infinite sun, which is a distant sun, 93 million miles. The sun's so far away that all the rays come in parallel, although no one's ever seen parallel rays, right? We always see rays coming in at like this, crepuscular, okay? They're not coming in, but he assumed there's parallel rays. And so he did his famous sticks and shadows experiment. So here, let me just get that, where he had he noticed that one day in a well he could see the sun shining on the bottom, which meant that the sun is directly above him. And he came up with an experiment. He'll put a stick in the ground and there'll be no shadow. And then his buddy, who counted the paces for 500 miles and somehow he's able to communicate with him, he'll put a stick up and there's a shadow. Then he can measure the length of the shadow, figure out, well, his shadow is a right angle, and he can do the whole thing. His no shadow is vertical, right angle, Pythagorean's theorem, and he figured out the shape of the Earth within 1 or 2%. Amazing. Carl Sagan drilled that into our heads in the show Cosmos in the 1980s. And I loved that show. It was amazing. I was really good at astronomy. Okay. The problem with that is on a flat Earth, it works also. We have a small local sun directly above Aristophanes. His buddy, 500 miles away, puts a stick up, measures the shadow, figures out that flat surface that we're looking at is a sphere. Just put down 3 beer bottles 5 feet apart in your house and put a light over the middle one. The middle one has no shadow and the other 2 have opposing shadows. You can now do math that'll tell you the sphericity of your flat floor.
Okay, so I have a bunch of questions. Okay. Zach says, this question comes to me. What was the catalyst that started David down his journey of proving that the Earth is indeed flat?
I was sick of people telling me to watch flat Earth stuff. It's the dumbest thing ever. I banned them from my social media for life for even suggesting it. And then Sophia Smallstorm, a very prominent researcher in the truth industry, said, Dave, I think the deceptions are worse than what we've been discussing. I think the Earth might be flat. I'm like, not you too. And she goes, here, watch these. She sent me Mark Sargent's Clues, a couple other videos. And I was like, let me watch these videos, but they're not going to prove anything. I went in with a closed mind and I was like, that's interesting. And then I started looking for more. And back in 2014 and 2015 and 2016, YouTube would go, oh, you like that? Here's some flat Earth videos that just were put up recently. And there was hundreds of videos going up every day. And YouTube fed them all to us. And I was like, wow. And I was like, then I saw all these boats over the horizon videos. And I'm like, that's amazing, but I need to prove it myself. So I went and I got I bought a P900 super zoom camera, a tripod, went down to the beach, and I zoomed in on things that I shouldn't be able to see. I sat down at the water's edge. I zoomed in on a beach and I could see people sitting at the water's edge. Well, that's impossible. At that distance, they should have been a dozen or more feet below the curve. And I could see a buoy over 10 miles away. There should have been over 66 feet of curvature. So then I thought, well, maybe the curvature formula is wrong. And I went to the globe, the flat Earth debunking sites. And they're like, oh, well, it's not 66 feet because you're halfway down the curve on one side and it's halfway down the curve on the other. So it's only 33 feet, which is dumb. But I'll give it to them. I'll handicap you. Go ahead. I don't need 33 feet. I can still see something 10 feet tall. How is that possible? Then they come in, oh, refraction. It's not refraction. We can see across Chicago, across Great Lakes to Chicago, 50 miles. The tops of those buildings shouldn't be showing. We can see the entire city skyline. Then the weatherman who was talking about the picture said, oh, it's a mirage. So a couple of our guys went down there, got on a boat on a clear day, put the camera on that mirage, and then took off and went 50 miles across the lake. That mirage should have disappeared at some point. It never did. Buildings always stayed. It wasn't a mirage. It was the actual buildings. That means that the Earth is either flat or 1,000 times bigger than they tell us. Okay.
Adrian says because the camera is not at ground level. Sorry, Amelia, I'll get back to you here.
No, that's absolutely not true. The higher you put the camera, the farther you can see, because your angle, you're changing your angle angle of attack. They tell you, like in Dubai, you can watch the sunset, then jump in this building, go to the top, and watch the sunset again. No, that's because the sun is going behind the atmospheric deck of opacity. What do I mean by that? I'm going to show you something very visual here, but I'm gonna show. I'll explain it for those of you that are listening. But I highly recommend that you find this video and do it. So yes, on the Earth curve calculator, and you can just Google Earth curve calculator. It's also in the app. Just go to the app and go to the Earth curve calculator. You put in the distance and the viewer height. It takes into both. Okay. Mm-hmm. And even if you want to do that, it's half and half, cut everything in half. You can still see too far. It doesn't matter. So the way it works is the sun moves along a level path across the earth. So here's my kitchen counter. It's flat. The sun is going across this line. Now, right here, I have an obstacle. It could be a mountain. It could be a city skyline. It could just be the atmospheric becoming opaque over distance. But the sun never goes below it. Now, I have a camera on the other end of the counter, looking up at this thing going away. Now we'll look at it from that perspective, from a terrestrial perspective. And when you look at this line, it no longer looks level. It looks like it's going down. And the top of this opaque barrier is at eye level. And it looks like this is going below it, but it's not. It's just going away. It's just going away. Look at this line. It's going more down than level. And this is a level line, and this sun is moving away. Comparing it to a real sunset, the sun went away, down, and look, it's going behind something right here. This is the atmospheric deck of opacity. Looks just like this, but this is what's really going on. Okay, watch again. It's just going along this level line. It looks like it's going down, just like the sun looks like it's going down, right? They don't teach us perspective in school, right?
Well, it always says measuring the inside of a small portion does not measure the whole. Low orbit is still way outside the scope of the Earth.
I don't know what you're talking about.
That's in the comment.
So here are some street lights going. We know that this is a level road, and these street lights look like they're going down, but they're all level. Well, here's the sun going down. It's just going away. It does the exact same thing. When you take the time, engage your God-given brain and your common sense, and replace the nonsense that they gave you, that they feed you, guy in a bow tie, guy in a white lab coat, a teacher with a Rockefeller-funded textbook, okay? When you disregard that nonsense and you think, right? Well, I'm not a scientist. I don't have a PhD. Those are the worst. Those are the ones that memorize and regurgitate the best, and then they teach the next generation.
Okay, another question. Amelia, then where is all the lithium coming from for these electric cars? Because those are being like pumped out and pushed out like crazy right now.
Well, across the Earth plane. Admiral Byrd flew out over Antarctica, said there's a continent bigger than the United States filled with uranium and coal and everything we could possibly need. No human is there. It's filled with minerals. And then they made it off limits. We put up a treaty in 1959 that's still in effect today, can't even be questioned until the year 2041, right? We're fighting over resources everywhere on the earth, but there's uncharted, untouched land that no country is allowed to go to. It's guarded, okay? You can't get to Antarctica on your own. You can't explore out there, right? And so where's it all coming from? It's coming from the earth. The earth is a flat plane. It's massive. There is no shortage of resources. There's no shortage of water. There's no overpopulation. Every single family in America could have a half an acre in Texas, and Texas would have plenty of empty land. Every single family in the world could have a half an acre in Australia, and half of Australia would be empty.
Okay.
And that's at the size that they tell us. Australia is bigger than they tell us.
All right. Next question. If NASA or Musk offered you a ride into space, would you go? That sure would clarify things, I think. Because that was something else I was going to say. You know, we've got actual citizens now who are going to be having the opportunity. Some of them have already done it to go into space and have a look for themselves.
Well, I'm going to show you how that's absolutely not true. And I'm going to give you to the listener that said that, if Walt Disney and Warner Brothers offered to put you in a cartoon with Roadrunner and Bugs Bunny, would you take the opportunity to see if Roadrunner would kill you? Because that's an equivalent question of what you just asked me,
Well,
right? I might have dated myself with Roadrunner. What I'm telling you is
one way to prove it to be true or false is take the ride and see.
Nobody has ever gone up in a rocket into outer space, ever. And that opens up a whole can of worms. We'll go down that road.
It sure does.
Yeah. So let me show you an unedited video from Elon Musk. And remember what I said? If you fake space once,
yeah.
I don't know if I said it on this show. That might have been the last show. Then you're a liar and everything. So oops, that's not the one I wanted. This one's pretty bad in itself, but I'm going to show you a better one.
Okay.
Where did it go? Well, this is an interesting rocket. Where is my it's in the rockets. So this is Elon Musk. This is a test flight of a rocket that's going to go to Mars. Now watch this thing. Edit, and watch the cuts and watch everything in real time. So this is a shot of nothing, right? This is the onboard shot. Now look how slow this is going. This little flame is lifting this 100-ton rocket into the sky. Okay. Now we have this far shot. Interesting. It looks like it's barely moving. Now use your mind, use your brain. The smoke now look how high it is. The smoke that's coming off of this thing. How fast is this moving? Look at how close we are and at the side angle that we have. It can't be that high. Now it's off and it's falling. It's 40,000 pounds empty and it's free falling. Now look at the smoke. How fast is this moving? Now watch the next edit. Now it's moving even slower. Look at the smoke. Is this 40,000 pounds free falling out of the sky? Now look how high it is all of a sudden. Okay. Right? They're trying to show you the Earth curve. Now it's falling again. We're going to have one more shot of how high it is, and then it's going to turn itself upright. Watch this. Look how high it is. Absolute insanity. Okay. And now the engines are going to turn on. It's magically going to upright itself. Magically. Right? Now, and then the cameraman's going to get it right underneath it. There was a nice edit right there. 2 of the 3 engines are going to burn out. Watch. 2 of them are out. Now look at the smoke. How fast is this moving? And this one engine off center is going to land this thing upright with a whole bunch of fake smoke right there. And it's going to land upright. And it happens to look like a penis. All right. If I must say so. All right. This is mockery. This is nonsense. So now let's look at Elon and what he did. Okay. So SpaceX, this is hard for people to really absorb. But here is William Shatner coming out of space. He was just slingshotted into space. Now this look at this thing. It's going down, 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 and watch this impact. Ready? I'll show you a closer one. Okay, watch again, and it's going to watch this impact. There's a 94-year-old man. I think he's 94, or however old he is, 90 something. And this thing slams into the ground. Now, there's bushes all over the place, and it never lands on a bush. I always found that very, very interesting. Here's a better one. And let me ask you a question. You ever go to a carnival or to a sporting event or outdoor sporting event or anything? Probably. What do they always have there? You always have EMS there. I used to run a school carnival, and we had to have a town EMS there in case somebody got hurt. Makes sense, right? Where's the EMS? There's just Jeff Bezos, a couple of wives, a couple of unknown cameramen, not a single medical worker to check this guy that was just slingshotted into space. Now, even Neil deGrasse Tyson says they didn't really go to space. They just went to the edge of space, and then they had 4.5 minutes of weightlessness. 4.5 minutes of weightlessness. All right. Let's watch that impact again. Right here, he's coming down in this thing. Right. Look how it's going kind of sideways. And now here's the inside coming down. Look at that. Did you see that slam? Nobody is on this thing. This is a trick. Right. And now let's look at them in space. Now you got cameras all over this thing. Well, if they're floating for 4.5 minutes, I want to see the uninterrupted footage, but you can't, because this is all they show you. They show them playing with the little floating things here. Now, there's two things that could be happening. Some of this could be in a zero-G plane, and some of it could just be they're all hanging from wires. But here's Shatner over here. He's not even floating because that's a whole nother thing. But this is all edit, look, edit. People are in different positions. This is a whole series of shots. I believe this is done on what's called the zero-G plane. Okay.
Well, Dolly says that her father worked for NASA. She has personally seen rockets, and I know Dolly, and she's personally seen rockets lift off into space, and the men who went returned weeks and months later, and they actually do return from the sky. And she's recommending that maybe you should go and watch a takeoff or a landing in person.
We have, but you can't get closer than 10 miles. You're 10 miles from it, and they're launching balloons. Okay, they're literally launching balloons. Okay, so so here is if you look at the space, let's look at the space shuttle. Okay, so this is 4 million pounds. Okay, 4 million pounds. And this thing is blowing around in the wind. Can you see it flowing around? You know why it's blowing around? Because this is literally a bouncy house with a firework on the bottom. You don't get to see this thing take off. When you do, it turns on its back and it flies out over the Bermuda Triangle and it disappears. And within a minute, you're watching a cartoon. Okay.
Well, Dolly has actually seen them take off and go into space in person.
You can't. Well, no, she hasn't. She's seen them take off and go out of her vision and then listen to the rest of the story. So here it is, 4 million pounds, right? This fence here should be tied in knots. Now, these people are not right there. These people are so far away that the rocket ship is tiny, and it's also behind a tree line, okay? And so they make it look like they're right there, but they're 10 miles away. So you don't know what they're launching. You weren't there. You didn't touch it. You may have seen the tank come through town. Yeah, that was a metal tank, but that's not what they put.
Dolly's actually grew up around astronauts. She says, you want a closer look? Send her your email and she'll fix you up. And she could fix you up. Trust me.
Yeah.
She could
info at theflatearthpodcast.com.
I'll hook you up, Dolly.
This. Yeah. Watch
but even
this.
buildings sway, according to Amelia.
Yeah, well, there's true. They do a lot of tricks, a lot of sound. But this thing, if you Google space shuttle launch, you'll get this video, and there's a problem. First, we have whenever you see a smoke trail, that's because they're launching something, whether it's a balloon or whatever. Right? There's no people on here, but this is going up. Now we're watching this thing and we're listening to the announcer, and this thing is 30 miles downstream before the solid rocket boosters come off. It's going, it's going thousands of miles an hour, right? And then the bolts explode and the rockets go off, right? You can still tell it's in the atmosphere. Look at here. And when it does, this thing has to be so aerodynamic, but these rockets fly sideways. They would be ripped right off, right? And when that, I'm going to repeat, when it disconnects, you hear it the same time that you see it. That doesn't work. If it was only 20 miles downstream, you wouldn't hear it for 90 seconds after you saw it, right? Because sound travels much slower than light, right? Now, these things are going sideways. They're still firing out thrust. How come they're just floating? This doesn't work like that. If you look at the SR-71, which is like a razor blade, that thing could go Mach 3.2. Okay, Mach 3.2. Right? You with me?
I am.
And the space shuttle can go Mach 25. That hunk of junk. It makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. And the people that work at NASA, it's so compartmentalized that the one person doesn't know what the next person's doing. And most people work at NASA, they have no idea that it's fake. They have no idea. They're the ones that are the most fooled of all.
So do you think with all this, I mean, you have so many people, they look at this, your discussion of this, like I say, you have passionate people on both sides who look at, you guys look at one another as this is a pseudoscience. You guys are the ones that don't know what's going on. Do you think from the point of view of being a flat earther, is it mostly about distrust? You just not trust anybody's research?
Well, no, that's not at all. We verify. Like, show me the
Yeah.
research. Like, she's saying that she saw something take off. How close were you? What did you see take off? How far did you see it? Did you ever see it enter space? Did you ever see a video from takeoff to connection with the International Space Station? How can you explain why they're using wires and green screens to fake gravity on the space station? And look at my latest video on DITRH. How you can't about the bathroom. The bathroom proves that they're not in space. It's absolutely impossible. It's absolutely impossible. And here's the other thing.
She's seen the actual building of the technology.
Absolutely. They build stuff. They build satellites. They build all of this stuff. It's just not going into space. The satellites that are built are put up on balloons. They're all put up on balloons. NASA controls the entire world. Helium. All the helium companies are owned by NASA. All of the Challenger astronauts, the 6 of the 7 we found are still alive.
That was the next question from Zach.
Yeah.
What is your explanation for the Challenger and Columbia shuttle explosions?
6 of the 7 we have found them, and they say the same name, same birth date, and they say, oh, that's my identical twin. So 6 of the 7 have identical twins. They have the same name. They all work for universities, I think. And none of them showed up at their siblings' funerals. There's a problem here. And people are just, such NASA fanboys because their uncle, their cousin, their mother worked there, their grandmother. It has to be real. That's the whole thing. NASA, it was a jobs program. NASA, when they built the Saturn V, they bid it out to tens of thousands of different companies had built different parts. That way everyone could say, my grandmother, my grandfather worked on the Saturn V. Okay. But they built something, they sent it to NASA, and it didn't go into space because nothing goes into space because space doesn't exist. These people are still alive, right? Judith Resnick over here, she works in Yale University as a law professor, and we have a video of her giving a speech, and she's very big with her hands and expressions and her hair. And then Judith Resnick, the astronaut, did a speech before she went up on the shuttle, and same hand gestures, same dimples, same teeth, same eyes, same hair, same voice, same inflection, same everything. Okay? It's not a coincidence. They're deceiving us, and it's all to keep us plugged into the matrix.
Okay. So let's talk more about the matrix. So, I mean, you're looking, into space, you can get a telescope, you can look into, there are other planets up there. They're around. The moon is round, despite what the moon is. It's there.
The moon is round or spherical?
Spherical.
How do you know?
Well, all I could say as the student here right now is I look into the sky on a full moon. I see some big ass crazy round sphere sitting there.
I got 4 spheres here. How big are they?
Well, I don't have the measurements to the moon. You tell me.
Well, no. Is that
your
the moon?
Presentation? Huh.
No. But what I'm saying is, I could tell you that they're size of a baseball and they're 5 feet away, or I could tell you they're the size of a yoga ball and they're 25 feet away. Okay, you don't know unless you know the distance. Now, let me ask you a question: is this one a sphere?
I'm trying to see. Okay, there we go.
Well, it's not. It's half a sphere, so it's hard. Is this one a sphere?
Okay.
Is that one a sphere?
They all look like spheres from here.
Very good. Well, guess what? This one's not a sphere either. It's flat. Look,
right.
Ready?
Yeah.
It's flat. How about this one? Is this one a sphere?
Mm-hmm.
What do you think?
From where I'm sitting, yeah, because I'm only seeing one side.
Yeah, no, you're seeing a cup. So what I'm telling you is you can't tell me what the shape other than the flat appearance of it is.
Right.
Yeah, that we see. So you can't say that it's a sphere because the optics of the sky, the optics of things that you can't touch are not are difficult to say. So here is a bridge that's flat, and as we get down lower, we get this miraging, right? And look at the railing wraps around. Well, this is the Glober's favorite one. This is Lake Pontchartrain Bridge, and they say this is the curve of the Earth. That's ridiculous. The Earth would be like 10 miles around, okay? Maybe 100 miles. This is just optics. This is not a horizon. This is just optics, and we're getting a mirage, a reflection of the sky. If there was just sky there, that would look like the edge of the Earth, but it's not.
Okay,
So,
I have to make. Hold that thought. I have to make a quick
yep.
station and sponsor ID. Again, for those just tuning in, you're listening to The Outer Realm with myself, Michelle DeRoche, and Amelia Pisano, who is in the chat room tonight. Our special guest is David Weiss. We are talking flat Earth. So spinning off of his last segment with us, we are fully sponsored by the amazing people over at Folgers Coffee. So thank you, Folgers. We love you and appreciate you so much. Also, our sponsor, Justin Snicker, aka Dr. Snick, the Sonic Surgeon. We appreciate your sponsorship of our intro and outro as well. So if you're just tuning in, again, we are talking about the flat Earth. And David Weiss, love him or hate him, he's passionate, and he's definitely got an answer for everything so far.
I don't have an answer for everything. I have, when we're done, we're going to find that certain things fit into only works on a flat Earth, and certain things work on both, but nothing only works on a globe Earth. There's a problem. There's a problem there.
So
this is NASA. The famous picture of Jupiter in 2014 and 2016, they said, we got a picture of the northern lights, which prove that there's a magnetic core at the center of Jupiter. Cool story, but why are all the clouds exactly the same? This is just darker. Every single cloud, it's the same image. They're lazy. They're lazy, right? This should change by the hour or by the day, but it's the exact same thing over 2 years later.
Well, Dolly says pictures are one-dimensional, two-dimensional at best. You're actually three-dimensional. So you can see that your head is actually round because you're three-dimensional, right?
Because you're here and you can measure it, but you don't know the optics of things.
Okay.
And if you can't touch it, like, go ahead.
I was going to say,
while you talk.
Going back to flat Earth, Adrian says, I want to know what's on the flip side of flat Earth. And Amelia's like, yes, what's holding it up? So, good questions. It just suspends. It just sits there. Like, what's under it?
I don't know. Nobody knows. Nobody knows what it is. It's created. I don't know. And what's at the end of your infinite space? Okay, that's a tougher question than what's under the flat Earth. I don't know. They say it's God's footstool. I don't know.
Right. Okay. So next, all right. Yeah. So next, Amelia says maybe Jupiter just doesn't change.
That is not true because maybe it doesn't, but according to NASA, it does, because if we look at Jupiter, where is it? Jupiter, where is it? Oh yeah. So this is a video from NASA. Whoops. This is a video from NASA as a probe went towards Jupiter, right? And if you look, this red eye storm is spinning. All the clouds are they're going in different directions. So this is just over a period of a couple of days. Okay. And then that picture 2.5 years apart, that shows you NASA's lying. Unwind it. All of space is a lie. If all of space is a lie, nobody went to space, right? The International Space Station is impossible to see at the height that it is. If you look at a 747 flying at cruising altitude, it's so small you can barely see it. Double the height, you can't see it. The International Space Station is about the same size, but 50 times farther. And then people will argue that they can see satellites, which are even farther and smaller.
But Jupiter does move. She said a still picture does not prove you right on that.
This is not a still picture. This is a series of pictures of Jupiter spinning. This is fake. People can here's the problem. And this isn't against women or anything. Women
Oh,
have a
that would be
harder.
good.
No, I'm not like that at all. But women try
Okay.
to build a safe world for their family. They're like, and you create your belief system and everything. And when somebody like me comes and says, "Hey, your whole life is a lie," and until you accept it, you're going to be living in the matrix. They're going to fight to cling on to it, because guess what? I love space. I love astronauts. I love science fiction. Star Wars. The universe is such a big
Dolly
place.
spent time in space, so it's a
Who?
little
Wait,
bit
who
tough.
has? Who has?
Dolly has spent time in space,
She's
so
gone to space.
yes, and
I don't think so.
I'm going to connect you guys up.
Yeah. What
And
mission did you have? She's in there right now. What shuttle did she go up on?
oh, she didn't go up on a
Oh,
shuttle. I'm going to
oh,
let
she.
you guys. She's been on the show. She's going to be on the show
So
again in
so
a few weeks.
she
But I'm going
she
to
went
connect the two of you.
to other worlds. Let me ask you. The idea of going, like, there's people that have been to other planets. I'm not denying that, right? But if you look at my pond theory, if you go up in some sort of aircraft high enough, the Earth is going to look like a sphere as you get farther and farther away from it, because it's just a circle, right? You're only going to see the circle of light, and then you're going to fly to the next pond. It's going to look like you're going to another planet. But a flat earther, knowing what this place could be, they'll see it. The other person will think they're in infinite space. Here, let's talk about this. If you've been to another planet, do you know how far these planets are? You know how far another star is? The closest star is 25 trillion miles away. 25 trillion miles, 4.5 light years. Okay. 20, and all the other ones are magnitudes farther. Do you know how big a trillion is? Do you know how long 1 trillion seconds is? Take a guess. How long is 1 trillion seconds?
I don't want to take a guess. It would hurt my head.
You don't want to take a guess?
No, I'm going to let you just come out and tell me.
Come on. If you guess it within a year, I'll give you a Bitcoin.
Yeah. So that tells me right there that I will not be able to.
It's 31,000 years. Okay.
Wow.
So if
Yeah.
you're traveling at a mile per second, which no human has ever done, it would take you 31,000 years to get 1/25th of the way to the closest star. You'd have to do that 31,000 years, 24 more times to get there. And you
Mhm.
believe that we could see a light that far? It's
Mhm.
scientifically provable that we can't. The lights in the sky, Polaris, if it was a light week away, the distance light travels in a week, at the size that they tell us, it would be impossible to see. But they tell us it's 433 light years away, and we can still see it.
Mm. Right. So another question. Where do extraterrestrials fit in the flat earth discussion?
Well, you're not listening to the beginning of the show?
No, he came in late.
Okay. So extraterrestrials come from the extra terra, extra land, territory, extra land. So if this is Antarctica, the land that surrounds us, what's out here? Well, maybe the world is set up like this. Oops, sorry.
Do you think maybe that they could come in through portals or vortexes?
No, I don't. That could be a thing, but it's not necessary. If we live here, they're just a couple thousand miles away, extra terra, in the outer space here on the Earth plane. They probably speak English. There's a book in the book section on the app called The Iron Republic. And I highly encourage anyone to read that. It's about a politician that got tired of what was going on here in the late 1800s. And he got a ship and went to Antarctica, and they found an opening, and he ended up lost at sea for a month. And then they found some land, and they were following the land around. They saw a city, and they're like, yay. And a boat came out and met them, and they spoke English. And they're like, we're from the United States. Where are we? They're like, this is the Iron Republic. And he's like, where's the Iron Republic? He goes, well, we're on the other side of Antarctica, about the same distance the United States is. And he's like, he didn't understand. And he went there. He ended up living there for a couple of years, actually got married, met a woman there, got married. She ended up dying. Whatever, I forget how it happened. And then he ended up just like leaving, and he found his way back to America, and he published a series of articles in Florida Magazine called The Iron Republic. And it's very, very convincing. It rings true to me. But even if it wasn't true, in the late 1800s, they're talking about more land on the other side of Antarctica. What does that mean? Okay. Right. This is there. And there's a whole bunch of books about this. Right. The Smoky God, they're all in the app under in the book section. And once you understand that this is scientifically possible, this is scientifically probable, outer space is scientifically impossible and just impossible. Absolutely 100% impossible. And
Mm-hmm.
if he wasn't here earlier, just going back to a map that I really like is what I call puddle theory. And it's this guy. Whoops, that's not it. Where'd it go? Here it is. Puddle theory. We live here in the center of this pond, and there's other ponds across the plane. These are other worlds. And now if you were to, let's say we can travel from one to the other in some exotic, secret propulsion program, which some people like to call the secret space program, and you can fly from one to the other. Well, this is going to look like a ball, and this is going to look like a ball until you get there. Then you come in, and everything looks like a ball in the distance. I can
But
have a
have you done
square
that?
light.
Have you flown over this? And is this what you've
No.
seen?
No, I'm saying this is a possibility. We just want the right to go explore the outer lands of Antarctica to see
Mhm.
what's out there, but they won't let anybody do it.
That's
Every country
true.
in the world,
No one's gonna let you near Antarctica.
all the countries in the world are fighting over everything except two things. One, 1959, the Antarctic Treaty comes in, and everyone agrees nobody can go there except for a little guided tour group to the little tiny peninsula. And you can't question the treaty until 2041. Lasted longer than any other treaty. There's resources there. There's lithium. There's battery stuff. There's fuel. There's everything that we could possibly need in this ridiculous world that we live in. And everyone, all the countries relentlessly agree and they guard it. There's islands all the way around our world, from the Falkland Islands all the way around that have military bases and ships. And if you try to go there, you're immediately stopped and turned around.
So then,
What?
what do you say about remote viewers who can actually tap in and go above the planet and see exactly what it looks like?
Well,
Remote
let me tell you
viewers that
something.
have been proven in other fields, and looking for missing persons, finding missing children, murdered children. These are remote viewers who are trained and validated several times over, and who also have the capability of coming up and viewing what is actually out there. What's your thoughts on that?
So if I took a myself and a globe believer, and let's say we had some sort of vehicle that can get up to, I don't know, 300,000 feet or so, assuming you can get up that high, and we took off of the Earth, I would see our pond and the lit part of our pond getting smaller and smaller, and then you guys would see it as the other person would see it as it would look like a half lit sphere because you're looking at it, you're going to see the curved light and you're going to think it's a sphere, right? And then you're going to look into the distance. Remember that other map I just showed, and you're going to see other lights. They look like stars. They're tiny little lights. And as you get closer to them, those lights are going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And you're going to think you got to another planet. And I'm going to go, no, we just flew across the flat plane. Airplanes fly straight and level across the flat plane. Sea level, not sea curve. Water lays flat. You can't have high pressure next to no pressure. Space vacuum. You can't have a rocket that pushes off of nothing, right? None of that makes sense. I believe that the connections, the real way they get between these ponds are tunnels, right? There's tunnels all over this world from the previous civilization that was here. And there was a reset that happened sometime in the 1800s that we came out of. And then we came out of it. There's people that took over this realm and put us in the matrix with their satanic system.
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't argue the whole theories with the 1%er. That's for sure.
So the other thing is, you get information and then you translate it based on your belief. Like if you didn't know if the Earth was a ball, if you weren't told the Earth was a ball, and somebody told you the Earth was a ball, you go, you're crazy. It's flat. It's clearly not moving. But you've been trained your whole life. Everyone believes it's groupthink. It's follow the herd, and that's what you believe. And then that's how you interpret the world. If I had a square light and you were looking at it from a half a mile away, you'd tell me it was a sphere. Okay. A flat square looks like a sphere from a half a mile away. Okay. Everything, it's the way our eyes work, right? And so
Mhm.
if you think the earth is a globe, you're going to see a globe until someone goes, no, look, you're not looking at it right. And then you go, oh, but that's what you were trained to see. That's what you were taught to think. And that's how you see the world.
Okay, hold on. I'm just trying to keep up with all the comments and stuff. Sorry. Do you make or fix any mechanical components? Are you an expert?
I don't know what they're talking about there.
Yeah, I'm just putting them up.
Yeah.
Hold on. There's just another
I'm very
one.
handy. I make all sorts of things. I have I have some stuff that would blow your mind. I have a Tesla coil that is truly amazing. It pulls energy out of the ether, but nobody even knows about stuff like this.
Yeah. Okay. So again, I'm just moving along here. So again, it's still hold on. What am I looking at? What am I missing? It was a special metal tape with extremely proven adhesive. Okay. I think I'm lost. I find that again, getting back to my question about remote viewing, there are some very gifted people. I know because I've worked with many of them who can just on a whim, just hear a name, find a coordinate, go out and find things that
Let me ask you a
are. I
question.
mean,
Why do you have a longitude latitude 2 vector system for a 3-dimensional Earth? Where's the z-axis? Or is that latitude and longitude describing a flat Earth? Okay, the remote viewers work perfectly on a flat Earth. It makes perfect sense. The only discrepancy that they will have is their misunderstanding that if they went to another world, it's right here across the flat plane. They're just thinking, well, I'm seeing it. You know, they see it differently. They see it completely differently. It's the same thing. Why? You know, the question of it's just like the person before. Where did all the lithium come from? What difference does it make if the Earth was a globe or flat? The Earth has lithium in it.
Okay. Just coming up. Okay, so I'm just watching other things come in. You'll have to excuse me. Popular guy,
That's all right.
Dave.
No, I
Popular
get
guy.
it. I get it. Here's the thing. For the people that are really fighting hard, and I'm used to this, ask
Mhm.
yourself, forget what's your best globe proof. And the thing is, you don't have any other than, you know, Disney and NASA show you pictures of planets. But in reality, when you look up, you're seeing lights in the sky that are impossible. You know, you look, I look at Jupiter in the sky, it's brighter than any star on some nights. Well, how's that dirty, gassy ball reflecting a distant sun back to the earth, ignoring the inverse square law of light and being so bright? It makes absolutely no sense unless that light that we're seeing is something else, something energetic, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Like, this is the star Sirius. Does that look like a burning ball quadrillions of miles away? Right? My,
Mhm.
my favorite one is Capella. You can see it with your naked eye. This is Capella. Okay. This is here within our Earth system. Find Capella in the sky. Look at it. This is what you're seeing.
Mhm.
Okay. Get a super zoom camera, binoculars, telescope. Zoom in. This is what you'll see. This is sentient, right? I believe that we're in this living system that's the layers of heavens above us and the densities below us. It's all alive, and we're part of this living system. And the positions of the luminaries, where you are, when you were born, all of that matter. All of the wandering stars, which are now called planets in this satanic system, are named after gods. Okay? They're lying to us about everything.
Oh, I don't doubt that we're being lied to.
Right. And I
But
showed
like,
you
mm,
NASA faking things. Once you see that, you have to let it go. You have to let NASA go. Right? I
mm,
could show you stuff on the space station that they're not there. They're faking it. I show you one time they're hanging from wires, then it's over. I'll show it to you 10 times. You want to see green
mm,
screen? I'll show you where the green screen reveals itself. I'll show you them on harnesses. I'll show you their bathroom. Go, everyone. I'm not even going to show you NASA stuff today. When we're done, go to my YouTube channel. It's kind of, I don't know why it's blocked here. DITRH. DITRH. Deep inside the rabbit hole, right there. DITRH, and go to my latest video, or it's 1 or 2 videos back. It says I have to go to the bathroom. Watch that video with a thinking mind. It's short. It's 5 minutes, less than 5 minutes. And then you'll understand that makes absolutely no sense. Read the pinned comment too. Okay. And then once you let go, once your ego goes, okay, I've been lied to, then the whole world opens up to you. The whole world opens up to you.
But you can still believe that you've been, that we're being lied to. I mean, that is evident with, like I said, with the powers that be. That's all over the place. You are in good company with a majority of people who are on board with, we are being lied to by the powers that be. However, okay, in all fairness, there's still a lot of questions that cannot be unequivocally answered when it comes to your perspective and from what you're saying.
There's a lot that can't be answered.
Well.
So here's the thing.
Nobody's arguing that we're being lied to.
I could show you that we can. I showed you that we can see too far. You can go verify that yourself. Yeah. I showed you the physics of water, that water lays level. Large bodies of water rest lay level, and there is no curvature. I could show you laser experiments. They're all in the app. Showing lasers, microwaves, sonar, gunner, testimony from Navy people that say, they can, with their railgun, they can hit another ship 100 miles away. They can pinpoint another ship 100 miles away with a pencil thin laser beam. Well, there'd be 6,000 feet of curvature in between them. That's impossible. A submarine at the bottom of the ocean can see another submarine 100 miles away. Well, that sonar would have to climb over a mountain over a mile high, go down, hit the submarine, and come back bouncing over a mountain. That doesn't happen. These things only work on a flat earth. Only on a flat earth. So the question is, I showed you, I can show you these things again and again and again. Where is your proof of the globe? Right? In the app, if you go to where is it?
But there are a lot of people who much like yourself are passionate about the information that they have with respects to the globe.
Well, they're passionate. I was passionate too, but here's the thing. Where's your proof? There's a video here. Rockets are balloons. NASA people, go watch those videos, and then you'll understand how big the lie is and how they lied to you. Watch these videos, and you'll see that they dropped the capsule that had the astronauts in it. They dropped it out of an airplane. I don't think the astronauts were actually in there, but they could have been. But they drop it out of an airplane. Okay. It's and then they're like, oh, it's back here on Earth. And all of it is nonsense. Watch that. Here, it's the 4th row down, full-length movies. Watch those movies. You can't get through 3 of them and end up and still believe in the globe. Or if you did, you didn't pay attention.
Okay, go ahead. Okay, next question. If the world is flat, how thick or thin is it? Paper thin or a column 20 miles high? And like making reference. What are the measurements, do you think?
So I don't think that the equator is as big as they tell us.
Okay.
And the deepest hole ever dug, as I said before, is less than 8 miles. Okay. Deepest hole is less than 8 miles. Where is my friggin' hole? Oh, there it is. Here it is. So it's called the Colaboro hole or whatever. So this is actually the one I wanted. So this is the actual capped drill bit, but they drilled down. It's here up in Russia, and they went down for 8 miles. Okay. So this is, where am I? There we go. Sorry about that. So they went down 8 miles, and they used ground penetrating radar, which will tell them what they're going to hit next. Hey, there's no more water. There's water. They were wrong. Every time they did it, they were wrong. Like, all right, there's no more water. They hit water. Right? There's no more rocks. They hit rocks. Right. And then they kept going, and then it got too hot and too hard. And they tried for years, and they could not get any deeper than 7.5, just short of 8 miles. Okay. So let's put that into equivalent. So if we're drilling through the skin of an apple, okay, if we're drilling through the skin of an apple, They got halfway, not even halfway through the skin, and they were wrong every step of the way. Okay. That's just going through the skin of an apple. And then somehow they know what that's a core 4,000 miles farther. They showed us a bunch of memes in books of, the core of the earth, the molten magnetic core. You can't have a molten magnetic core. Every magnet, when you heat it up before it melts, it hits the Curie point, and that's where it loses its magnetism. But somehow, we have a molten magnetic core, and somehow they know that when they couldn't guess what was in the skin of the apple. I'm sorry, you're believing stories.
Okay.
Good.
Oh, where'd you go?
Oh, I'm gone again. Hold on. I'm coming back. I'm coming back. Here I am.
Okay.
Right. These are all different pictures
right.
of Earth from NASA. These are paintings. Okay. They're paintings.
Okay.
Let me ask you a question.
So-
What would be easier? What would be easier to paint? Oh, there I go again.
I like the wine.
Yeah. Well, what would be easier to paint? The wine or the ball earth? What would be easier to paint?
I don't know. I think it depends on the artist.
Well,
that's sort of a loaded question. You asked.
Why is that? Why am I still don't understand why I'm in front of that. Oh, that's
Yeah,
why.
I don't know.
I got it.
You're gone, you're back, you're gone,
Here I am.
you're back.
So this is a painting.
Right.
This is a painting. If you zoomed in on it, it's so detailed you couldn't tell it's a painting. This is a painting too. This is a cartoon. Okay. And so people go, well, they couldn't fake it. Yeah, they're faking it. They're absolutely faking it. Right? This is unbelievable how much they're faking it. Right?
Well,
this is the one that was on everyone's
Tamara,
iPhone.
who is an artist. She says they were actually not very hard to paint either way.
Well, there you go. That's my point. Well, if you can, the wine glass one is pretty impressive. I mean, it's got the window.
Easy for her. Well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It depends on the artist. I think at the end of the day, you've got two sides of a coin, and you're both sides are very passionate about each other's perspectives, and your people.
Let me ask you a question.
Well, you guys are all conspiracies. They're saying you're all conspiracies. It's really hard because there's nothing definitive to say for sure.
So hang on. There absolutely is definitive things to say. It's the globe people that don't take the time to look. Give me one proof of the globe. One proof of the globe. And your answer is going to be, I'm not a scientist. I don't know. I'm not a professional. You just believe the Earth is a globe.
But there are scientists who tell you.
Name one.
Do you have any scientists that have worked? Do you have any scientists that have, worked with the flat Earth theory?
We have NASA whistleblowers. We have engineers. We have what's the definition of a scientist? Is a scientist somebody that's funded by the government with grants? Well, they're not going to speak out because they lose their grants. Right? They're not allowed.
I'll tell you that about the Vatican too.
Yeah. Well, so again, look at all this. Here's the thing.
Yeah.
Globers say some scientist somewhere figured it out. Well, that's not good. That's a belief. That's a religion. Okay. Right. Michio Kaku himself says that cosmology is off by 10 to the power of 120. That's 10 with 120 zeros. A trillion is in 12 zeros. 10 times more than a trillion. 10 times more than a trillion. Okay. That's how far off they are. Theoretical physics has never predicted anything accurately. It's all made up pseudoscience.
Right. Okay. Well, I'm being the devil's advocate here because again,
so before we end,
two sides to every story, then there's a truth in the middle, right?
There is. Somebody offer me one proof of the globe. One. I haven't heard one yet. And I'm not just going to I'm not going to deny it. I'm not going to say fake. I'm going to show you.
Apparently somebody did and went to collect his $100,000 and couldn't get it.
So cite what they did. You can't because they didn't do anything. right? They
The
came.
article actually does. It's very detailed about what it is. I can send you a link to it if you'd like. It
Yes, sure.
probably,
Send me a link, and
you know,
we'll
gives you something
I'll
to
do.
work with and rebut, though.
Well,
You know what I mean?
here's the thing. We've looked at all of these things. There are no proofs of the globe. There's none. There's none. There's
Right,
just a belief. There's just a religious belief of the globe. I mean, this
right,
is the globe. It's photoshopped. They're lazy. They use the same clouds again and again and again.
right, right. Either way, I have to tell you, it's always a pleasure having you on because I love your passion, and you just have such a strong belief, and you just go after it,
It's
and
not a
I have
belief. I
a
don't
healthy
believe the
respect
earth
for
is
that.
flat. I don't
Right?
believe. I
Yes,
know that it's not a globe, and I know
yes,
it's testably, measurably, scientifically, provably, observably flat and level
yeah,
and stationary.
yes, yes. And as we near the end of the show, Zach, what a show! Thank you. Yeah, we always call him our third host. Thank you, Dave, for joining us this evening and saying goodbye to everyone. So
Let
this
me
is the part of, sorry,
go, I was
go
going to
ahead.
say, everybody, you can find all of my videos, all my
Yes.
interviews, all my short videos, DITRH videos. It's all at flatearthdave.com. The app is there too. It's $3. And just go read the reviews. Don't buy the app. Just go read the reviews. It's a one-time charge, $3. There is, if you want to be able to message other people or fill out a profile, which you don't have to, it's $10, $11 a year. Okay,
Right.
$11 a year. It's pretty darn reasonable. But you don't have to subscribe. Just check it out, watch the videos there, or on the website for free. Go to the Flat Earth Crash Course. I challenge anyone to watch the first 3 videos there
There we
and
go.
walk away and say the Earth is a globe. It's impossible.
There we go. Amelia has got
Impossible.
your website up on Facebook as well, and that's on our page. So anybody that wants to see it, of course, you'll be able to just check it out under, as you can see under our names. Dave's got his website right there, and been really interesting because yes, if you want to email me, there you go, the outer realm contact at gmail.com. There we go. Um, and I will definitely, if you're interested, happily send you the link. It's always good
Yeah,
to read,
sure.
but it's
Absolutely.
there, you know what I mean? So
It's already been rebutted, so I just don't know which one you're talking about.
no, but it just gives you an idea what was done, right? So I'm a researcher at heart, and I do love to look at everything, cross-reference it time after time after time. And I always say, it doesn't matter whether people agree, it's just a matter of being respectful from all forms. It's the only way that people actually want to learn more from you. If they feel disrespected from any individual who's trying to teach them something, of course people have questions. You're trying to get away from something. We talk about this on many levels. You're taught certain things from the time you're this big. You go through mainstream education, maybe religions take play. You're being told by your parents, you're being told by your teachers, you're being told by everybody that things are a certain way. Sometimes it's a matter of being patient to explain. There's so much division in the world as it is. It's really hard. If you really want to try to reach people, there can't be division. It's like with something like this, it's you got, yeah, you're the globers and you got like the flat earthers, and it's like, man, come together and you probably just find you get a lot more achieved that way. I come at it from the perspective of a student. I surely don't have answers to a lot of what my guests come forward, but I do have millions of people who want to listen and who want to hear that side, because it's not made available to mainstream people, right? We have to rely on shows that bring people such as yourself forward to
They're
talk about
they're
this stuff.
hiding this information because it's about control, and it's not until people are willing to lay down their egos and realize they've been lied to their whole life, and then once
But about
you
a lot of things.
yeah,
Yeah.
well, a lot of things, but the way they get away with these things, they have you spinning out of control. They don't have your feet planted. They don't have your higher mind activated
Mm,
because you're trapped in the heliocentric matrix. When you're in the matrix, your brain doesn't work, and then they can get through all other psyops on you. They can make you think that a boogeyman's flying through the air, and it's going to make you chimp like a monkey. Okay, they can make you believe anything. It's all absolute nonsense. And once you wake up to flat Earth, then you wake up to everything else. It's amazing.
Right. And I love it. Again, I love your energy, and I love the presentation. I've definitely enjoyed every step of the way through the show, and I knew I would. We had a blast the first time you were on, and we definitely had a blast with you this time. Amelia, of course, from chat, because she's still, getting better, and long haul for her, so she didn't want to miss this either. So thank you, and I will send you the links to the show, and I will email you with that other link, and I can email you, of course, with other information, as I always do with our guests, to let you know what our listenership was.
All right. Thanks so much.
Okay, Dave. Thank you. Always a pleasure.
Have a good night.
Good night,
Bye.
darling. Bye-bye now. Well, we've come to another fantastic segment here on the Outer Realm. And again, I always have to say, love him or hate him, he's full of energy. He totally believes in it. He educates with what he's got available, and he's got a great following. And I have to say, when we post the archives, they go up. People love him. So big thank you to David Weiss tonight. And guys, if you're on YouTube and you enjoy the content, please subscribe. It would be appreciated. We appreciate your support and want to continue to bring you interesting guests. So thank you, Folgers Coffee. Thank you, Dr. Snick. If you guys do want to contact me, please, the outerrealmcontact@gmail.com. I will respond as I can. If you have questions for myself or Amelia, that's how you do it. Next week, we have the return of Ryan Musgrave Evans, who's going to be picking up where he left off with his research in respect to experiences with tall whites. And Thursday evening, we welcome back friend and guest Nick Redfern to the show, who will be discussing Rh-negative blood and the ET connection. Until then, of course, Amelia and I bid you all good night. And to all David's followers in chat, thank you so much for partaking. We really appreciate it. And you never know, maybe we'll all get to do this again sometime. So thank you and good night, everyone.